When you reduce your income, you will reduce your Social Security retirement benefit. I'll explain. Hello, I am Kevin Knaus, an independent health insurance agent in California. I am a sole proprietor and I am self-employed. And as a self-employed individual, we are all looking for ways to reduce our net income with different expenses and deductions. Because if we can reduce the net income, we pay less in taxes. But of course, this can have a downside. And I was interested in what would happen if someone is very aggressive at reducing their self-employed income and how that would translate into their Social Security retirement benefit. So kind of at the beginning, when you're self-employed, a sole proprietor, you must fill out a Schedule C from profit or loss from a business. That's part of the federal tax forms, and that's where we put down our gross revenue, commissions, sales from products, services, and then we get to deduct the expenses associated with that business activity. You know, cell phone, rent, utilities, all of those business expenses, and there's a few other deductions. Then that number, that net income number, is then transferred to Schedule SE, self-employment tax. And on the self-employment tax, that's where it is figured how much the self-employed individual owes for Social Security and Medicare taxes. So Social Security is going to be 12.9 and 12.4, and Medicare will be 2.9%, and that's 15.3%. So it's hefty. And if you can reduce your net income, you pay a smaller amount. But that net income is what is sent to the Social Security Administration, and that is logged as your historical earnings for the year, and they're going to use that to determine your Social Security retirement benefit. So what I've put together here is just kind of hypothetical situation, an individual, maybe self-employed for all of 35 years, and I selected 35 years because the Social Security Administration uses your highest 35 years of income when determining your monthly benefit. So 35 years ago, this individual, might have been me, made $26,100, self-employed for the full time. So add all of that up over 35 years, and the total income for this individual was $1,679,217. Now, every year when they paid their taxes, they also paid 15.3% on those net earnings every year, and that would total $256,920. And I pay quarterly estimated taxes, and it stings. I know I get to deduct half of this 15.3% from my net income, and then I get another deduction later on when I'm doing my taxes. But when I'm filling out that check for the quarterly estimated and it's several $1,000s, it stings. So we're always looking for ways to reduce that. So let's say that this individual is aggressive at finding expenses and the deductions to lower their net income, and they're able to do it by 25%. So what I've done here is I've reduced the income by 25%. So now over the 35 years, the individual only recorded a net income of $1,259,413. And that reduced their self-employment taxes to $192,690. A savings of $64,230. Now, this is not adjusted for inflation, and this does not account for the income taxes. So obviously, if you have lower income, you pay lower income tax as well. But at least on the self-employment tax, which is Social Security and Medicare, they've reduced that amount. So Social Security Administration takes those 35 years of highest earnings, and you can see those in your Social Security account. And they go through some different calculations. It's kind of long and cumbersome. I won't go into all of it. You can click on this link up above here where I've done a video on how this is all calculated. But essentially, they take those 35 years, they take the older years and kind of inflate them to kind of adjust for inflation, and then, you know, total it all up and divide by 420, because there's 420 months in 35 years, and they come out with what is called the average index monthly earnings. So for this individual, over 35 years, unadjusted in terms of not being reduced, the AIM, average index monthly earnings, was $6,704. The reduced amount was $5,028, a difference of $1,676. So again, this stuff is a little bit complicated because now the Social Security Administration is going to apply some more calculations, and it's a bin point, and they use different bin points and they change every year. I'm using the bin points for someone who turns 62 in 2025, for those people who are kind of following all the calculations. So when the bin point formula is applied to the average index monthly earnings, it reduces that amount to create what is called the primary insurance amount. And the primary insurance amount is what the individual would receive on a monthly basis at full retirement age. So if your full retirement age is 67, that's what this individual would receive on a monthly basis. So the monthly Social Security income at full retirement age for the full 35 years, that individual would receive $2,857 per month, Social Security income deposit. If they were aggressive and reduced that income by 25%, they would be receiving $2,320, a difference of $537. Well, that's a car payment. That, you know, for some people, you know, $537, that's not a big deal. For other people, that can be significant. So we know what that is on a monthly basis. What does it look on an annual basis? So for the 35 years straight, it would be an annual Social Security income of $34,275. If it was reduced, their income was reduced by 25%, the annual Social Security income is $27,839, and that's a difference of $6,435. So that's, you know, starting to get up there. Now let's look at what happens over a 20-year period, because you retire and you're not going to, you know, die right away, hopefully. And let's say this individual lives for another 20 years, retire at 67, you know, go till 87. So over a 20-year period at 35 years of that income, $685,496 in Social Security retirement income benefit. If they were aggressive at reducing their income, over 20 years, they would receive $556,787 for a difference of $128,709. So that's a lot of money over a 20-year period, especially when we consider that the reduction of the income to save on taxes over those 35 years saved them $64,000 in self-employment taxes. Now, I know there's inflation, which I have not accounted for in this and whatnot, but still, just looking at the straight numbers, if someone reduces their income by 25% over that 35-year period, they will lose a Social Security benefit greater than the savings of the Social Security and Medicare taxes. Of course, that might be cynical in terms of what happens if the individual is actually reducing their income because they are putting the money into retirement. Because self-employed people in certain situations can create a simplified employee pension individual retirement account, which you can take off and you can use that as an expense, a deduction. And if that money was funneled into those funds with other things, the retirement planning strategy, they may actually have more. And so the difference between the lower income may not have any bearing on them. They may be actually better off. But for people like me that aren't very good savers, I'm just going to have a lower Social Security retirement benefit if I really aggressively pursue limiting my net income. There is also an impact to survivors, spouse, and dependents. If the primary wage earner has a lower primary insurance amount, that monthly Social Security benefit, that means the spouse will not get as much of a benefit because there's a spousal benefit. Even if you're alive, it can be added on to so that the spousal Social Security retirement will go up to 50% of the primary insurance amount. But if it's lower, then that's lower for the spouse. If the individual dies, there are survivor benefits. So if you have a lower primary insurance amount, lower survivor benefits for the spouse and dependents. So there is kind of a cascading effect in those unfortunate situations where a primary wage earner, dies young. So I'm not saying, self-employed people shouldn't reduce their income taxes by finding legitimate expenses. I'm just saying there can be a cost later on down the road if you're very aggressive at reducing your net income, because it's the net income on Schedule C that Social Security will be looking at to determine your final monthly Social Security benefit at full retirement age. So if you have any questions or comments, you may leave those down below and I'll do my best to answer them. Otherwise, for InsureMeKevin.com, I'm Kevin Canals.